All right. Well, welcome to Factoryville. I appreciate your being here this year for Matty. Just would like you to introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about your background.
Who, me?
Yes.
I'm Eddie Frierson, originally from Nashville, Tennessee, and now I'm an actor based in Los Angeles. I've been there for years and just am lucky enough to be able to make a living as an actor.
Well, last night you mentioned about how you discovered Christy Mathewson 29 years ago. And
A long time ago.
Tell us a little bit about that. What happened? How did it all start? I mean, when did you...
Well, it was hard to believe, 29 years ago. My father found a copy of Pitching in a Pinch, a book Mathewson wrote in 1912, which he didn't actually write. It was a series of interviews he did with a sports writer, Jack Wheeler, that was put into a book. And it sat on my shelf for a couple of years. And then when I was going to a family reunion, I needed something to read on the airplane, and that's what I grabbed. And by the time I touched down, I thought, this fellow's pretty interesting. I think I could do something with this material. And my dad said, where's he from? And I said, Factoryville, Pennsylvania, and we didn't know where that was. Got a map, found out it was up here, and he said, well, why don't you drive up there and see if anybody's still around. And
You've never been here before?
I had never been here before. No, I'd been to Honesdale because a dear friend of the family, Walter Barb, lives in Honesdale.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was part of it. My dad said, well, you can go up and stay with Walter B., and it'll give you somewhere to be while you go and check out and see if anybody's still alive. And I was fortunate that people were. And Alvy Reynolds in particular, the first man I met who was a second cousin of Christy Mathewson, and remembered as a child being taught how to cut holes in the ice and fish during the winter time and different things. Had distinct memories of Christy Mathewson, things like his high voice, apparently, and things like that. It was just, but more than the Christy Mathewson thing, all the people that I've met in this journey have become second family to me. And if I'd never, ever said one word on stage as this wonderful man, just meeting the Reynoldses was enough to make this a really all worth it.
And you've been doing this for how many? When did the play actually first come out?
I did the first version of it in 1987 at a national convention for the Society for American Baseball Research in Washington, D.C., and then took the next 8 years to develop it into what I felt was good theater, to where people who hated baseball, not just didn't like it, but who hated baseball, would have a good theater experience. And once it got to the point where I thought it was ready, I tried it out on a theater full of church ladies, and when they were happy and standing at the end, I knew that people were going to love this man as much as I did.
And your character last night, your whole play is not just Christy, it's other people that made very deep impressions on Christy. How did you select those people? Can you give 2 or 3 of them and just talk about why they were important in Christy's life?
Well, it was... they really, and what I do is Christy's impersonations of them. So some of them are a little bit cartoonish and comical. John McGraw, of course, was a big influence on him. They became best friends, and they were complete opposites in personality. John McGraw would cuss every other word. In fact, Alvy Reynolds had remembered John McGraw bringing the first automobile ever into the borough of Factoryville, and it got stuck in the mud down here on Main Street, where the post office is now. Okay. And he said that people in the entire county heard things that they had never heard before, that his tongue lit the entire area on fire. He was so mad that he didn't have a horse instead. But Christy, it was John McGraw. He had a number of influences on his life. His mother was very important in the values and the things of life that she instilled in all of the family. And the Mathewsons in that were no different. This whole area is really sort of that same, the family is important, the community is important, that remembering where you're from is important no matter how big you become. So it's hard to really narrow it down. I'd say his mother was probably his biggest influence. There was a time he was offered $1,000 a month. This is a time when people are making, if they're lucky, $800 a year. $1,000 a month to put his name on a pool hall in New York City. And he asked his mother what she thought, because there's a lot that they could do with the money. He says, do you really want your name on a pool hall? And so he didn't do it.
Christy's at magnificent pitching career. Can you pinpoint what ballparks he liked to play in most frequently? What were his favorite parks? And also, he was in a few World Series. What was his best World Series?
Well, his best World Series was in 1905 when he threw the 3 shutouts against the Philadelphia Athletics and they became world champions. He may have performed even better in 1912, the first year of Fenway Park when they played the Red Sox, and he pitched magnificently and ended up losing in Game 8. There was one game that was a tie because of darkness, and so they replayed the game. Game 8 was late in October and it was snowing. It was a very, very cold day, and that's when Fred Snodgrass in center field dropped a routine fly ball that allowed another batter to come up, and they ended up losing the game in extra innings. But Honey Fitzgerald, who was JFK's grandfather, said, he was a big Red Sox rooter, and he proclaimed Christy Mathewson the day of the parade for the Red Sox. He proclaimed Christy Mathewson the hero of the World Series, even though he was for the other team. So he liked playing anywhere you could throw a ball. He liked throwing down here in the main town square.
Have you been to Polo Park where the Giants played?
To the Polo Grounds?
Yeah.
No, it was torn down when I was a child, so never had the opportunity. So it's just, I know where it was. I've been to the spot where it was. It was right across the river from Yankee Stadium, and that was one of John McGraw's mistakes. The Yankees rented the Polo Grounds, but when they started to become popular, when they took on Babe Ruth, John McGraw said we need to stop giving. They were drawing more than the Giants, and never thought that they could afford to build a stadium, much less that then they would become the Yankees, with their perfect concrete structure and all that. So that was a mistake because the Giants could have made a lot of money off the Yankees over the years.
I want you to switch into your character,
okay,
and I want you to look into the camera and talk when you are encountering youth that want to be inspired and you feel like you need to say something to them. What kinds of things might you tell them?
Well, by all means, play ball, because it'll bring you to rub elbows with the world, and it'll teach you much if you will but learn. It'll teach you about the business game, and I think it'll teach you about the life game too. Many young players of all different abilities used to come up to me all the time and say, "Hey, Matty, should I try and make the big league?" And to that, I always used to say, try, yes, absolutely, if you love the game. But if you can't make the big league, give it up. Try another game. Don't spend the best years of your life in any minor league. Try to find a vocation that makes you happy, one in which you can make an honest living for yourself, but most importantly, one in which you can meet many kind and true friends. Because I found it's not the applause and the glory at the ballpark, it certainly isn't the money that buys contentment for us in this lifetime. But it's our family and our friends that we make and hold that make our greatest happiness and most enduring success.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Well, appreciate it.
This guy right here wants to meet you. So
He does? This right here?
Yes.
All right.